I want to say this. First and foremost, there's no shame, no embarrassment in getting packed out, getting beat up. As long as you fight, you're respected. Now, did King fight? We don't know. I'm going to tell you my personal opinion about T.I.'s son, King.
Like, I don't have no gang. I ain't in no gang. I got family. I got motherfuckers who willing to risk their lives and freedom to die by me and mine. You hear me? Boy, don't f***ing play with me, man. Don't f***ing play with my motherfucking child, ever.
Stop scrolling. Because what you're about to hear might change the way you see T.I., his son King Harris, and everything that's been happening behind those prison walls. This isn't just celebrity gossip anymore. It's a father's worst nightmare. Watching his son's life spiral out of control, while realizing too late that fame, money, and power can't protect you once the streets decide you've gone too far. It all started with a phone call T.I. never wanted to get. 3 in the morning. He was half asleep, his phone lighting up again and again. When he finally answered, the voice on the other end was panicked. It was someone from inside, the kind of call no father wants. King had gotten into it with the wrong people. In jail. For a few seconds, T.I. didn't even breathe. He'd heard rumors that King had been trying to prove himself behind bars, talking tough, trying to show he wasn't soft. But this was different. The man on the phone didn't mince words. King had mouthed off to someone you don't disrespect. Someone who ran things. A gang leader with a reputation even the guards stayed out of the way for. T.I. sat there in silence, his hands shaking. He'd been in dark places before, made mistakes, seen what power and fear could do to young men. But this was his son. His baby boy. And he knew that once things crossed a certain line inside, there was no calling it back. Tiny woke up to the sound of him pacing, muttering under his breath. "This can't be happening," he whispered. But it was. And soon enough, the whole house felt like it was caving in. By sunrise, the story had already leaked. Someone from the inside had posted something cryptic online. King Harris ain't built for this life. He disrespected the wrong man. Within hours, social media lit up. Memes, rumors, fake mugshots. But T.I. wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about how to get to his son before the streets did. He called every connection he had. Lawyers, correctional officers, old contacts from the hood. The man he needed to reach was known as Blade. Cold, calculating, the kind of person who could make one phone call and change a man's future forever. T.I. had crossed paths with him years ago, back when he was still half in the streets and half in the studio. They weren't enemies, but they weren't friends either. And now, T.I. had to beg. When he finally got a meeting set up, it wasn't in some fancy studio or office. It was in a dimly lit parking lot, in the back of a black SUV, with 2 men standing watch nearby. T.I. stepped in, his heart pounding, trying to hide the desperation in his eyes. Blade didn't waste time. "I heard your boy got a mouth on him," he said. His tone was calm, but his words cut deep. T.I. nodded. "He's young. Stupid. Thinks he gotta prove something. I'll handle it." Blade looked at him for a long time, then smirked. "You used to be the same way." That silence hung heavy between them. T.I. wasn't here to argue. He was here to save his son. "Whatever it takes," he finally said. "Just, don't let nothing happen to him. I'll make it right." Blade leaned back, considering it. "It's not that simple," he said. "Your boy disrespected a man who's been running that block for 10 years. Apologies don't erase disrespect." T.I. swallowed hard. He knew that world too well. You couldn't talk your way out of pride. And yet, he tried anyway. "He's my son," he said quietly. "You got kids?" Blade didn't answer, but the flicker in his eyes said enough. He did. And maybe, deep down, he understood. Meanwhile, inside those walls, King Harris was realizing the gravity of what he'd done. The tough talk, the loud jokes, it all meant nothing now. Word spread fast. He'd insulted a man named Rico, one of Blade's most trusted lieutenants. And Rico didn't let things slide. The next few days were tense. King could feel eyes on him wherever he went. The meals, the showers, even walking back to his cell, he knew something was coming. He tried calling home, but the phones were always crowded. When he finally got through to his mom, Tiny's voice broke before she could say anything. "Baby, just keep your head down," she said, crying quietly. "We're working on it." King didn't answer, because deep down, He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep his head down. Outside, T.I. was pulling every string he could. He paid people. He begged people. He even went to some names he'd sworn he'd never contact again. But this wasn't about pride. This was about survival. He met with lawyers who told him the system would take weeks to process any protective custody request. Weeks King didn't have. So T.I. did the only thing he could think of. He recorded a message. Not for social media, not for PR. For Blade. A raw, unfiltered plea from a father to another man who'd lived that life. "I know the code," he said, voice trembling. "But this ain't about the streets no more. This is about a kid who made a mistake. If there's anything I can do, any way to make this right, let me do it. Just don't take him from me." The message made its way to Blade within hours. And for reasons no one fully understood, it worked. Blade called off the heat. But it wasn't mercy, it was a warning. King would be transferred to another facility. But Blade made it clear, next time, even your daddy's name won't save you. When T.I. got the confirmation, he broke down. The same man who'd built an empire from the ground up, who'd stood tall through scandals and arrests and betrayals, he just fell to his knees and wept. Tiny held him as he whispered, "He don't even realize how close he was." But while T.I. was trying to clean things up quietly, the internet was exploding. Blogs and gossip sites started reporting everything. T.I. begs gang leader to save his son. Some said Blade had demanded money. Others claimed T.I. promised favors in return. None of it was verified, but the damage was done. And then came the footage. A leaked video from inside the facility showed King being escorted down a hallway, head low, surrounded by guards. Someone off camera shouted, "Where your daddy now?" The clip went viral instantly. Fans flooded the comments, some mocking, some genuinely worried. The world was watching King Harris fall apart in real time. T.I. couldn't stay silent anymore. He went live that night, his voice shaking as he spoke directly to the camera. "I know you'll see what's going on," he said. "But let me make something clear. Ain't no amount of clout, fame, or money that can teach a man about consequences. My son learning that the hard way. But I'll never stop fighting for him." It was raw, real, and painful. You could see the hurt in his eyes. For years, T.I. had been criticized for the way he raised King, some saying he spoiled him, others saying he was too hard on him. But now, none of that mattered. He was just a father, terrified of losing his child. Inside, King was trying to hold himself together. But the reality hit him hard. The people who'd been hyping him up online, calling him real, calling him gangster, they weren't there now. He was alone. And that loneliness broke him in ways he'd never admit publicly. One night, another inmate, a quiet older man who'd seen it all, sat next to him and said, "You think this place care who your daddy is? You just another number here. You better learn before they teach you the hard way." Those words stuck with him. For the first time, King stopped trying to act tough. He started listening, observing, learning. And little by little, that arrogance faded. Outside, Tiny was struggling too. She'd been putting on a brave face for the cameras, but the sleepless nights were catching up. She blamed herself. Maybe if we'd been stricter. Maybe if we hadn't let him get caught up in all this fame. But T.I. just shook his head. "We did what we could. Now he gotta find his own way back." Weeks passed. King was transferred quietly, away from Rico's unit. But the scars, emotional and mental, were deep. When he finally called home again, his voice sounded different. Quieter. Humbled. "I messed up, Pop," he said softly. "I thought I had it all figured out. I didn't." T.I. didn't say much. He didn't need to. That one sentence was enough to tell him his son had finally started to understand. But peace didn't last long. Another leak hit the blogs, a supposed recording of T.I. and Blade's conversation. It was grainy, hard to hear, but the internet went wild with speculation. Some said T.I. had paid over $100,000 to get King moved. Others claimed Blade threatened to expose more if T.I. didn't stay in line. T.I. denied it, but the damage was done. The narrative was out there. T.I., once the king of the South, now begging street leaders to protect his own blood. The humiliation was heavy, but he took it. Because the only thing that mattered now was keeping King alive. Meanwhile, King's transformation continued. Gone was the loud, cocky kid always ready to fight for attention. In his place was someone quieter, more aware. The guards even noticed. One of them told T.I. during a visit, "His changing, man. You can tell he's been humbled." And maybe, in a twisted way, that was the lesson T.I. had been trying to teach him all along, that fame fades, but character is what keeps you standing. When King finally got released, it wasn't the triumphant return some expected. No press. No flashy photos. Just a quiet ride home with his dad. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. The silence said everything. Later that night, King posted on Instagram, "You'll never know how close I was. I ain't perfect, but I ain't done learning." It was simple, raw, and real. Fans flooded the comments, some offering support, others reminding him how quickly things can fall apart. T.I. reposted it with one line, "Growth ain't easy, but it's necessary." Behind closed doors, though, the scars still lingered. Tiny couldn't shake the fear that something like this could happen again. T.I. couldn't sleep some nights, haunted by the image of his son alone in that cell. But at least he was home. Alive. Breathing. Still, whispers began again. Rumors that the man King had disrespected was still out for revenge. That a price had been put on his name. That T.I.'s plea only delayed what was coming. And while no one knew how true those whispers were, one thing was certain. This story wasn't over. Because when you've lived your life in the spotlight, every mistake, every tear, every secret eventually finds its way out. But for now, T.I. held on to the one thing he still had. Hope. Hope that his son had finally learned what he couldn't teach him with words. Hope that the same streets that almost took him once would now let his boy walk free. As for King, he stayed quiet. No interviews, no statements, no live streams. Just silence. And sometimes, silence says more than any headline ever could. Because when you've seen how fast life can crumble, when you've heard your father beg strangers to keep you alive, you start to understand that growing up ain't about age, it's about survival. And somewhere deep down, T.I. knew, maybe this was the moment that would finally make his son a man.